We're now into week 6 of lockdown, 6 weeks of isolation and distancing. And if I'm totally honest, I don't think I'm ever going to truly get used to it. But in a way, that's kind of the point. This disorientation that we find ourselves in at the moment is not our final destination. This new normal will not be our normal forever, thank goodness. But it is a really important stage that we go through on the process from orientation, from knowing what things were like before, through to reorientation, how God will show us the new to come. It's something that can't be rushed as much as we would like to rush through it. Perhaps it might be helpful to compare it to Easter Saturday in the resurrection narrative. Looking back, we can see that Jesus' disciples, his friends, were only going to have to wait for one day without him. But they weren't to know that when they were facing the situation. They were facing uncertainty. They were facing the unknown. They're thinking, well, what comes next? They didn't know what was going to be on the other side. Hindsight is a really wonderful thing. Someone once said to me that hindsight has perfect 20/20 vision. But we don't see so clearly when we're in the midst of disorientation, when things around us look uncertain. Last session, we looked at orientation, our attempts to control the world as much as we can, to orientate ourselves around the things which are important to us, to try and make sense of the things around us. And so in our attempts to try and control the situation, this COVID-19 situation that we find ourselves in, we turn to the advances of technology to try and connect with people when we can't connect with them physically. For work calls, for online meetings, even for church. And all of these things are good and they're helpful, and we're thankful for the modern advances of technology. But if we're truly honest in our heart of hearts, it's not the same. It's not the same. There's a level of dissonance to be virtually present with people, but to be physically absent. And my body feels it. I feel a longing to be with people. We're beings who are created to be in physical space with one another. And it hurts to be separate. Things are not as they should be. These really are disorientating times for each and every one of us in different amounts. A very well-known and at the moment often repeated, particularly in Christian Twitter, verse is this, which comes from Julian of Norwich. And she said, "All should be well, and all should be well, and all manner of things shall be well." The promise is that one day when God returns, that he will bring everything back together. He will reorder everything which is broken. But that is not today. She's not saying all is well and all is well. She's saying all shall be well. We have to sit in the midst of the disorientation and the frustration and the anxiety of the messiness at the moment. We live in the reality of a very broken, fallen world, living between the beginning when God made everything perfect and the end, the kingdom finally come, everything restored once and for all in its perfect place. We're called to live as a people of faith. We're called to live with our eyes fixed on that glorious promise, that day when everything will be restored, but to have our feet firmly planted in the unknown, the uncertainty of today. And to make sense of that, we have to model ourselves on Jesus. How did Jesus do that? Well, Jesus, God incarnate, came and stepped down from the right hand of the Father. He entered into the messiness of the fragility of our human form. He came as a vulnerable baby. He came and felt all of those emotions, the grief, the joy, the sadness. And he sits with us as we mourn. He sits with us as we lament, as we wail, as we moan, and as we weep. This is the good news of the gospel. Not that we're secured a one-way ticket to eternity, to heaven, to be with God. That's part of it. But actually that God comes and steps down into our brokenness, into our hurt and into our pain, to come and sit with us right in the middle of it. All of it is given over to God. All of it we can submit to him and say, God, this is the only thing I have to offer you today. And he's okay with that. All is not well right now. God is not standing at the sidelines, standing at the end of the race saying, come on, keep going. He's not beckoning us on from a distance. He's saying, actually, I'm going to come and meet you in that place of disorder and of uncertainty. This is Emmanuel, God with us, here in the disorder and the disorientation. My friend Steve O'Rourke, who is a fellow ordinand with me and used to be at All Saints, he was sharing at our morning prayer for vicar training the other day, and he shared these really profound words, which I've been reflecting on. And he said, God knows how to lead a disorientated people. God knows how to lead a disorientated people. God has been there before. He's been with Moses and the Israelites as they spent years and years and years going through the desert, being completely disorientated, knowing they had had an ordered but broken system of being in Egypt, moving into a state of disorientation, and then finally to the promised land and reorientation. And we have that same God, the God who knows how to bring order out of our chaos. So even when we can't trust ourselves or our circumstances, we can trust the God of ages who has been there before, who has done it with his people and will do it again. As we finish off this session, I'm going to read some verses from Psalm 31 to help us to pray. In you, O Lord, I seek refuge. Do not let me ever be put to shame. In your righteousness, deliver me. Incline your ear to me. Rescue me speedily. Be a rock of refuge for me, a strong fortress to save me. You are indeed my rock and my fortress. For your name's sake, lead me and guide me. Take me out of the net that is hidden for me, for you are my refuge. Into your hand I commit my spirit, for you have redeemed me, O Lord, the faithful God. I will trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands. God, we recognise that all is not well right now, but the promise that the God of ages steps down into our brokenness and our hurt and our pain to travel along this journey with us, to feel the emotions that we feel, is the same God who will reorientate us, the God who has done it before and will do it again. So in this time, God, we submit to you our feelings of disorientation. Thank you that you're big enough to hold them and to lead us through these times. We trust you. You're our rock of ages. You're our fortress, our strong tower in times of need. When we can't trust in ourselves, we can trust in you because you are faithful and you are good. Amen.